Hello there BookTube, I hope you enjoyed the really high-tech introduction. Today I'm doing a tag, the alphabet soup tag, part 1, A is for author. I was very kindly tagged in this by Luna over at Luna Reads. I was going to try and link her underneath, but sadly I can't seem to be able to find the channel, so yeah, that's pretty sad. But I'll link the original video, because this tag was created by Sean over at Sean the Book Maniac, so that'll be down there in the description. And so yeah, I'll just jump right into it. So the first prompt is A is for author, a good book by an author whose first name or last name starts with the letter A. First names are too easy, so bonus points for a surname, double points for first and last names. So I'm not sure if you're going to be keeping score, but this is first and last names beginning with A. These are the selected poems of Aaah, and yeah, if you don't know, Aaah was a Russian poet writing from, I want to say, around the 1910s through to the 1960s. So as you can tell, living in Russia through that period, she saw a lot in her time. Yeah, she really lived through a lot, and yeah, some of the stuff that she wrote kind of reflects that. There's a poem near the end here, I think it's Poem Without a Hero, or maybe it's Requiem, I can't remember. One of these two poems at the end of these selected poems, she basically would write them in her head, tell them to her friends, and they'd memorise parts of them, because she couldn't have them written down, because just because she was a suspicious person and she didn't want the government doing anything if they found scraps of paper around her house. So yeah, her and her friends just had whole passages of her poetry memorised, and then they wrote it down and had it published when it was safe to do so. But yeah, this is Aaah, I'd highly recommend her work. Then next up is A is for, well, A. The last book you read with the article, the one-letter word A in the title. And it was quite hard to actually work this one out, but I think it was This Is Not a Rescue by Emily Blewett. And again, this is a poetry collection by a Welsh poet. And yeah, it's a pretty strong first collection, I'd say. Yeah, it's got oh, what's it called? It's got a poem about the Sarlacc. So if you've seen Return of the Jedi, there's a bit where Han Solo and Luke Skywalker are about to be fed to this weird creature in the desert with tentacles and stuff, and that's the Sarlacc. And it's basically a love poem, I think, from the Sarlacc to Boba Fett, the bounty hunter who falls in and gets eaten by it. So yeah, it's really weird, but yeah, definitely a memorable poem. So yeah, This Is Not a Rescue by Emily Blewett. And then 3 is A is for Angry, a book that peed you off. I'm going to keep it child friendly. But I don't really get angry when I read books. I sometimes get grumpy if I really don't like a book. But yeah, I honestly can't remember the last time I got angry reading a book. And then number 4, A is for Awesome, a top read of recent years. And for me, this would be Fictions by Jorge Luis Borges. I honestly always get his name wrong as soon as I turn on the camera, and I'm sure that the first time I try to say it with the camera off I'll get it right. But yeah, just some of the best short stories I've ever read. I'm sure you will have heard of him from some other channels. But yeah, it's Borges' Fictions. And then A is for a book whose title includes at least 3 A's. Bonus for more than 3. It's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. I actually haven't read this yet. I have read Journey to the Centre of the Earth and thought it was okay, but I've got this and Around the World in 80 Days. Yeah, I haven't actually read this yet, but it has 3 A's in the title. Right, then number 6, A is for Annoying, a character that drove you up the wall. I was recently reading Ulysses by James Joyce, and I honestly can't stand Stephen Dedalus. I just find him really annoying and pretentious. So yeah, Stephen Dedalus, mainly in Ulysses. I haven't read Portrait of the Artist for a while, but I'm sure if I was to read that, I'd probably find him a bit annoying in that too. I can't remember. But yeah, it'd be Stephen Dedalus. Then A is for Ambivalent, number 7. A book that you're still not sure how you feel about. For me, this is States of the Body, Produced by Love by Nisha Ramaya. And this again is another sort of poetry collection, although it's sort of fused with sort of essays and sort of prose pieces. And yeah, I still don't understand this book at all. If you watch my first video, I'd probably only just read it around the time I was filming that video. And yeah, in that video I was still trying to get my head around it, and I'm still trying to get my head around it now. It seems like the bits in prose, in certain sections, seems more poetic than the bits that were supposed to be poetry. And there were some bits that were supposed to be poetry that, at least to me, just seemed like they were written to confuse you and annoy you on purpose. Yeah, I'm still kind of confused and not sure what I think about this yet. It might take me a bit more time to get my head around it. Number 8. A is for Anticipation, a book, new release or not, that you're very much looking forward to reading. Yeah, I don't really have an answer for this. One, because I don't really follow new releases really. I guess any book that's been published in the last 5 years, as far as I'm concerned, is a new release. Just because I'm a bit out of it with what's new and in vogue and whatever. And also, just when it comes to I'm not, I suppose I'm quite intuitive when it comes to deciding what to read. I sort of have TBRs, but yeah, I'm not terribly strict with them, yeah, I tend to just choose intuitively the next book to read. So yeah, I don't really know how to answer that, so sorry, I don't have anything for that. Then number 9. A is for Actually, a book you didn't expect to like but did. And this is, for me, it's The People of the Sea, Celtic Tales of the Sea Folk by David Thompson. And yeah, I guess this is, at least in the UK, I suppose, a fairly famous book. It's basically about a guy, David Thompson, and he's just recording loads of folk stories about Selkie. So in sort of Scottish and I think Western Irish folk tales, the idea is that the Selkie, the seals, are these kind of magical creatures, and they can, if the tide's right, they can transform to look like humans, and they have sort of magical and sort of magical properties, and can give good or bad luck. And that kind of reflected the life of the people at that time, because just for subsistence they really depended on seals. So they'd make clothes out of it, they'd eat their meat, they'd use their oil for lamps and so on. So yeah, they were some really interesting and fun stories in this. And I bought it because I was intrigued about it, and then I read the first few pages and thought, is this going to be just really boring and dry? And then it wasn't too long then, as I got into it, where there's just such heart in it, and it becomes less about the stories than the people who tell them, and the relationships that are built, and it's really quite moving and quite lovely. So that's The People of the Sea. It's a great book. And then number 10, A is for Affected, a character, book or writer you feel is pretentious. Um, yeah, I kind of brought up my feelings about Stephen Dedalus up earlier, and I will reiterate them. I think Stephen Dedalus is pretentious. I think James Joyce is pretentious. I like his writing, but he's definitely pretentious. And I mean, if you weren't to say that a book like Ulysses or Finnegan's Wake were pretentious, then I don't know what is. So that's that. And then number 11 is A is for, how's it going, eh? A book you liked by a Canadian writer, or one that you want to read. And for me, it would be probably anything by Anne Carson. I've only read a couple of her prose poems in the Penguin Book of the Prose Poem, but is it Autobiography of Red? I think is one of her famous books. But yeah, I'd really love to read anything by Anne Carson, and just haven't been able to yet. And then number 12 is A is for Anticlimactic, a book you thought fizzled out at the end. And for me, this was Hummingbird by Tristan Hughes. I really wanted to like this book. The premise and the idea of it is really on the border between being quite lovely and wholesome and being heartbreaking. It's about a father and son struggling with grief, going up to their sort of cabin by a lake, which is where they used to go on sort of family holidays, and it's just the two of them, and they're both learning to move on, I suppose. But yeah, it's just one of those books where, at least for me, I got to the end and just felt like nothing had happened. Well, things had happened, but you know, we weren't really told why anything had really happened, and yeah, it just fizzled out. It just decided to end at a point, and it was done. There was no real payoff or anything, so yeah, just sad, because the idea of it was really lovely. But there we go. So that's Hummingbird by Tristan Hughes. And that's it. 13 is A is for all the booktubers. Tag a swack of people. I'm going to take that fairly literally and just tag all the booktubers, or more specifically, if you're watching this and you haven't done the alphabet soup tag part 1, A is for author, and you feel you need permission to do it or anything like that, then you have permission, you have my blessing. Go out and do it, have fun, yeah. So there you go, that was the alphabet soup tag part 1, A is for author. Please let me know what you thought, or I don't know, anything else. Even if you just want to say hello in the comments, feel free to just say hello. But that's all for now. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope the rest of your week goes swimmingly. Alright, bye bye.